Hello and welcome everyone to another very exciting day with Celebration Magazine Live's Zoom and Learn. We are here today with our special guest, Total Hearing Care in the Hearing Professional Center. Dr. Paige Gainey is going to be speaking about how to choose the best hearing device for you and kind of tell you about the differences of what they are. So, Paige, if you want to take it away.
Hi. All right, I'm Dr. Gainey, and today we're going to be speaking about not all hearing devices are created equal. All right, so we're going to go on to the next slide there. Thank you. So today we're going to go over our topics, what devices look like, how does the device perform, and why the cost difference. Those are some big topics that we go over during all of our evaluations with our patients. All right, so here I kind of did like a multitude of photos here. We'll go from the top left. I don't know, has anybody seen a device like that, or maybe had a family member that has worn something like that before? So this one is actually a body-worn aid. I can think back to my great-great-grandma, and she had one, and we actually have it still at home in a box. And it's interesting because you would see like photos, or her daughter would say, she had a pocket sewn in her dresses so that she could wear that box in her dress, and it went, that string went all the way up to her ear. It was actually a body-worn aid. So things have gotten a lot smaller since then. Thank goodness for technology. We're not having to use the ear horn that you can see in the black and white photo there. You can also see some of the older styles of devices. We've got the kind that connected to your glasses. And so they would connect to your glasses and go in your ears. So it was glasses and hearing aids in the same. Also, in the bottom right, you see a tiny little computer chip. And a lot of patients say, well, is that a hearing aid? It's what is in the hearing aid. It's what powers the hearing aid. So that little computer chip, it is about the size of 3 grains of rice, and that's what goes inside all of these devices here that you can see. And that's what helps you.
Dr. Gainey, I am so sorry to interrupt you. We're having a little bit of connection issues on your end, so your audio is getting a little garbly here and there. Are you on a laptop?
No, I'm on the same computer.
Same computer you were last time? Okay, yes. Continue on, and hopefully it'll clear up.
Okay, let me just look here at my settings here. So it's my microphone.
Yeah.
Okay. It's the same settings here, so if it happens again, just interrupt and...
Okay, it may be your bandwidth also. Sometimes that can cause the issue, but we'll continue on. What we may be able to do, everyone, if you have challenges with some of the stuff and you have any specific questions, we can give you the contact information to get in touch with them at Total Hearing Care. And if you have any questions that maybe you didn't hear the answer to, or any other questions, you can definitely call them and they will help you out with that, okay? So we're going to do our best, all right?
Absolutely. Let me know, because it looks like I'm hardwired into the internet here.
Okay. You're sounding okay right now.
Okay, now maybe I just need to speak slower. Okay, so on the bottom left, you can see a child, and this kid actually has a cochlear implant. So that's an actual surgery. that implants a hearing device so that they can hear electronically. Okay, so we'll go to the next slide here. So now we have many different styles of modern hearing devices. There's the kind that go behind your ear. They also go inside your ear only. Nothing goes behind your ear. Depending on your hearing loss, depends on, and your ear canal size, depends on which one is appropriate for you. We also have rechargeable batteries versus non-rechargeable. You can see how each of these devices actually fits in the ear. And you can see how some of them take up more, like the ITE in the ear. It is the fourth one from the left. You can see how that fills up the entire ear there. You have the other kinds that you go to the far right, and you've got part behind your ear and inside your ear. So all of it depends on, yep, so you can see there, all of it depends on what is necessary for you. What is your hearing loss like, and what is your ear canal shape? So we're gonna go to the next slide. How's my voice coming in? So is it better now?
It's still garbling every once in a while.
Garbling, okay. What I can do is possibly have us log into one of the front computers here and have her click on the link and see if we can get her started and see if that's better on that computer.
Okay, why don't we do that?
Okay, one moment and I'll have her start.
Hey guys, we just want to make sure that everybody has the best viewing experience and audio experience as possible. I find it kind of ironic that we're talking about hearing devices and we're having trouble with the audio. So I do apologize for that. If you could just hang in with us. Unfortunately, since we're all on Zoom and we're all in different locations, bandwidth can be different. Hardware can be different, and that can kind of cause some challenges, but we're going to try and get that all fixed up for you. Okay. I am going to stop my share here for a second and going to take off the spotlight. Okay. And when we get Dr. Gainey back on, we will start this up again.
Unmute. Oh.
All right. Hi.
I unmuted. Okay, how is that sounding there?
So far, so good. So far, so good.
Good? Okay.
All right, let me get you spotlighted, see if this works a little better, and we will restart our slideshow. All right, let's give this a shot.
All right, sorry, I'm lifting the chair because I'm really short. I think you just do the lever like that. We're done. Okay. Well, hello. I might need some phone books to stack. So, okay. So we're going to go over aesthetics and styles of hearing devices. Some hearing aids are better for adults and pediatrics. Pediatrics, so children, they usually are going to wear the behind the ear style of hearing devices because they're more durable. Whenever you look at the inside of your ear, if all the mechanics and components are on the inside of your ear, then you're going to have more likelihood of wax getting in the device, oil, debris. It's more likely to break down. Whenever you have something behind your ear, you can be more rough with it. Usually it has a higher IP rating. What is an IP rating? Well, that is kind of like your cell phone. It's your rating against any water or dust or debris. So typically pediatrics are going to go with the behind the ear style. Also, as you grow, your ears grow. Okay, so a lot of children, they're, you know, having to, if they do go with that kind, which is very rare, they're having to get new devices made every 6 months to 12 months, and that's just not feasible for those patients. Cochlear implants. Does anybody know, by show of hands, does anybody know anybody that wears a cochlear implant? Okay, I see Karen raised your hand, and then Helen, and yeah.
And Vivian.
So, yep, Vivian, okay, yeah. So a lot of people are candidates for cochlear implants. How do you find out? How do you know if you're a cochlear implant candidate? Make an appointment with your audiologist. Depending on the severity of your hearing loss and your scores on your hearing test, your overall health and age, they're not going to do surgery, you know, if you're 110. If you have a profound loss, sometimes even a severe loss, then you are a candidate. Your word recognition score, how well you understand words with hearing aids and without hearing aids, okay? So evaluation by an ear, nose, and throat doctor or audiologist for final approval. They will look at your scores, look at your overall health, and that will determine if you are a candidate for cochlear implants. So we see patients that are cochlear implant candidates, and we definitely want to make sure and give them the help that they need. Okay. All right, so here we're talking about the different ear shapes. So we look at picture A, you can see that black line. You can see some people have more wide, some people have more narrow, like C. Some people, like the very far picture on the right, it's completely closed. So how do we fit a hearing aid in that type of ear? That's a challenging one. So sometimes we have to make a mold and we have to make a custom shell. Sometimes we have to use a thin tube or a RIC. A RIC is a receiver in the canal. And those are the devices that might help that patient the most, because not only is sound quality something we have to look at, we also have to look at fit. And there's many different shapes, and your ears actually can change shape over time. So if you have dental work done, if you've lost weight, if you've gained weight, your ear shape can actually change. All right, so we've got the next slide. Ooh, ear conditions. This is a big one. I'll never forget the time I was a first year in school, and one of my supervisors, it was a patient, and this patient had chronic ear infections. I mean, bless their heart, it was just absolutely awful. Always having to have the ear cleaned out and always having drainage. So finally, you know, what we had to do is we had to fit them with a thin tube so that they weren't having to replace their hearing aid so often. So thank goodness that they had a thin tube there, because that really helped with the chronic ear infections and the drainage. This patient also had a lot of tubes and surgeries on their ear, so they're definitely a good candidate for that. Stenosis of the auditory canal. Now, what does that mean? That's a very narrow auditory canal. So the pictures that we saw before, the one on the far right, that very small ear canal, that is stenosis of the auditory canal. Also, mastoidectomy. What is that? That is a surgery where the patient, the ENT or ear, nose, and throat doctor will have to do surgery on their mastoid, so back here. And what that does most of the time is the opening of the ear canal will actually be enlarged. It's actually usually a pretty large cavity. They call it a mastoid cavity. It's completely empty because they had to drill out and get all of the infection out. So anytime you see a patient with that, most often, 9 times out of 10, you're going to be experiencing a pretty severe hearing loss. So whenever you're being exposed and you're looking at mastoidectomies, you just need to be very cautious when you're doing ear mold impressions. because that patient is going to have some significant help with their hearing aids. So we've also got surfers and swimmers ear. How many of y'all have ever swam in any sort of body of water and got an ear infection or had something happen? Yeah, I've been there too, yes. And so what can happen is sometimes you might get some bacteria or something in that ear. Sometimes if it's super cold water, kind of like where you go surf, you can actually have bony growths in your ear. And so whenever you look inside of an ear, like whenever I look inside of an ear, that's something definitely we look at to see if there's any history of maybe some ear infections or some sort of infection, and then also if they have any malformations or bumps in the ear. Fungus, I have seen my share of fungus. It definitely looks very fluffy, kind of sometimes like cotton. And sometimes you just see it in one ear and you don't see it in the other. So anytime you see it in one ear, you need to make sure that you don't cross-contaminate it to the other ear. So, you know, if you're going to be cleaning one ear, you need to make sure you be very careful to not spread that whenever you're doing that. So if you have fungus, most often you're going to have to go to an ear, nose, and throat doctor so that they can treat that, because that fungus a lot of times can be very difficult and take some strong medications to get rid of, because it's a warm, wet, dark place, and it is a breeding ground for bacteria and fungus. We have boxes that we give our patients. They're drying boxes, and the drying box dries out the hearing aids, and it also has a sanitation on it. It's more of a recent box that we've been giving out, and probably the last few years. Maybe Melissa, our office manager, can say how long, but it's been really helpful in keeping the devices and hearing aids clean. Other ear conditions, how many of y'all have ever had to have your wax removed professionally? Anybody? Yes. Okay. Let's see. Keep raising your hands. Okay. Okay. Yes, I see more people. Yep. That's right. Yep. So everybody produces wax, right? So whenever you produce wax, especially if you wear hearing aids, you do tend to produce more wax. Some people don't, but most people do. And the reason why is there's little cells in your ear canal, and those will be stimulated by that hearing aid. And so those cells say, oh my gosh, there's something in my ear, and now I need to produce wax, and so I can get it out. So that's why a lot of hearing aid wearers and users do produce more wax. Usually if you have tanner skin or more oily skin, you do tend to produce more wax. Not always the truth, but it definitely is a high percentage of patients. All right, so next slide. Okay, so what does severity of hearing loss have to do with your hearing prescription? So each patient has their own prescription, just like you have your own eyeglasses prescription, heart medication. Everybody has their own prescription. And if I were to test everybody in this meeting today, we would all end up on different points of this graph, okay? And the graph actually goes longer than what we have, especially if you're a cancer patient. Sometimes we need to test a little bit more, but this is what an audiogram looks like. Now, since we all are going to be on different parts of the graph, we really have to categorize ourselves a little bit better, okay? So this is kind of a generic thing here, but pretty much any patient that falls 20 and above, you're going to be considered normal hearing. Anything outside of that is going to be considered hearing loss. So that's what the audiologist does. That's what we do, is we figure out exactly all of your different points. And you might have 15, 20 different points on this graph just for one patient. And that is per ear, Okay, so we have to figure out where do we categorize you so that we can get you the best hearing. Okay, next slide. This is a good one. So what size battery do you want in your hearing aids? I didn't realize there were different size batteries. A lot of patients say that, well, I want the one that lasts the longest, or I want the smallest hearing aid. So if you want the smallest hearing aid, usually that means that you're going to have the smallest battery. So that means that you're probably going to have to change it quite a bit. Okay, now we have rechargeable hearing devices. So you can put the hearing aids on the charger, and they have become smaller and smaller. They actually recently came out with the world's smallest rechargeable hearing aid. So that's excellent. It looks very small. It's very discreet. But some people might want a size 13 battery, which is orange. And that can usually last, you know, about around 2 weeks average. And that's going to be a little bit less common. The most common is the size 312, and that's the brown color. That is the most common size. It's pretty standard in the industry. And that's if you have disposables. So you'll have to change that every about 7 to 10 days-ish. Okay. Does brand of battery matter? So one thing is that all manufacturers of batteries, they get all of their parts and pieces from China or India, and so they outsource. All of them do. And so they might get the metal from China, they might get the zinc from India or wherever, and so then they bring them in together and they manufacture them. So as far as brand, you know, there's not really anything that can sway which one lasts longer or shorter. I have had experience in my career back in, I think, 2012, 2013, when someone got a bad supplier. It was not good metal, and so it was shorting out, and so the batteries were not lasting but more than 2 days. So, and that was a major supplier. And it happened all across America. So, and it actually happened in the size 10 batteries, but it was a manufacturer for that little size 10, a popular one. And all across America, they were getting recalls on those batteries. So that's something, you know, brand doesn't necessarily matter. It's just where they get their supplies from. Okay, next slide. All right, so PSAPs versus amplifiers versus hearing aids. So can you tell the difference? Which ones are PSAPs and which ones are hearing aids? In the bottom right, you can see a PSAP. What is a PSAP? So what we look at is we look at the hearing aid is a device programmable, okay? A PSAP is a personal sound amplifier. And if the device is programmable to your hearing, to your prescription, to your hearing test, that is one side that it's a sign that it's a hearing aid and not an actual hearing amplifier. Whenever you look at the over-the-counter act, they are looking at for mild to moderate losses. That's actually already in effect. You go to Walmart, Walgreens, and you can see a amplifier on the shelf for $200, $300. Sometimes you'll see them advertised for about $750 or $799. I think a couple of Miracle Ear might do something like that, and that is interesting because what happens is you come into the door and you say, okay, this is what I want. Here's the advertisement, but actually it's not a hearing aid. You might have more than the loss, more of a loss than what that amplifier can help you with. So it's kind of like, do I need readers or do I need an actual glasses, like prescription? That type of thing, okay? All right, so we've got performance. We've got your different technology levels. So hearing devices, they come all the way from an amplifier for $200, $300, all the way to an actual hearing aid. Those are usually, you know, $1,500 each. They can range. And then they go all the way up to $3,300. And so it just depends on what your lifestyle is and what you need. Every patient is different. Some patients say, you know, I'm not really active. I stay at home. I don't talk to my grandkids or kids on Zoom. I don't, you know, I pretty much never leave my apartment or house. I just need something very basic. And that's perfectly fine. You can get something extremely basic, and that is what suffices your lifestyle. Okay. If you need something better, so you're going to your birthday party, or you're decided to go on a walk, so you want to hear all the different nature sounds, and you've got your friend walking on the left of you, you've got another friend on the right, and you want to hear the birds chirping and want to hear your feet hitting the ground, you know, that's going to be a more sophisticated computer chip that will help you pick out your friends' voices, but also keep the background noise around you a little lower. Okay. No hearing aid out there completely rids background noise, because if it did, I would be wearing it. Everybody has difficulty hearing in background noise, even people that have normal hearing. So what hearing devices actually do is they are programmed to pull out the speech and to decrease the background noise. Unfortunately, no hearing aid out there can eliminate background noise completely. If they advertise that, then that's something you need to be wary of, okay? Now they have devices that will connect to your phone, to your computer, so you can hear the television, so you can hear directly to your hearing aids on Zoom calls or phone calls, anything like that. And so it'll connect to your iPad or your tablet. So that has significantly improved understanding. A lot of patients recently, we've gotten calls that, oh my gosh, Dr. Gainey, I cannot understand in background noise and on Zoom calls. Those are the two things that they're having issues with. And now we have connectivity and we have hearing devices that really help in the background noise. There's also assistive devices. This is optional, but there are there's been a movement, and it actually started out with the pediatric division. And so what was happening is all these kids were coming to school and they had hearing impairment and they were wearing hearing aids, and they were having difficulty understanding and hearing their teachers. So they noticed that their grades were going down. So then they started evaluating, well, what's going on? Well, you know what? The student couldn't hear the teacher. So of course, you know, you can't make an A score on a test on whenever you couldn't hear anything about what it was about. So they started implementing Connect Clips, Roger, FM devices. So what that is it's a device and it's all wireless. Used to it was wires, but now it's all wireless, and it increased the kids' hearing and background noise by about 81%. So that was a huge deal. And so the kids actually got to see a letter grade and a half improvement in their scores. So recently we have had a movement in the pediatric, and that has gone over to our adult population. And so now our adults, I would say probably about 30 to 40% of our adult population actually use these devices to help them. So also the power of a hearing aid. Because we have different categories of hearing loss, we have different powers of hearing devices. So if you have less of a hearing loss, then you probably don't need that strong of a hearing device. So that is something that we will look at your appointment to see what is appropriate for you. The good news is, and this was not true in 2011, 2012 and before, is that now hearing aids can grow with you. So if your hearing loss does change, we can actually change the power of that hearing aid without you having to buy an entire new hearing aid. That was a huge deal in the 2011, 2010 area, because patients were like, I just bought this hearing aid 3 years ago. What are you telling me? Well, yeah, of course hearing loss can change over time, just like eyesight can change over time. So now the good news is you don't have to buy a new hearing aid. So that's excellent. All right, so next slide. All right, so cost. This is an important one. So whenever you look at the cost of different hearing devices, so you've got your PSAPs versus your hearing aids. I think I emailed you the wrong one. But we've got cost of hearing aids and your personal sound amplifiers. If you're not a candidate for your personal sound amplifier, then you're going to have to look at hearing aids. Also, whenever you look at hearing aids, don't all cost $6,000. There's hearing devices that are less expensive. So that's something that we have to be looking at. Also, whenever you look at the cost of a hearing aid and divide it by the hours used a day and compare to Starbucks or a car, what you spend on your car, what you spend on Starbucks, that is quite a bit, okay? If you were to drive your car about 10 hours a day, that would be putting a lot of miles in on your car. And so that's very, very important, because you're going to be wearing these hearing aids about 8 to 10 hours a day, okay? And next slide. Any questions?
I'm going to stop our screen share here, Paige, and there you are. You should be spotlighted. All right. So if anyone has any questions, most of us are familiar now with how to put those into the chat bar. I can ask Dr. Gainey those, and she can address those for you. But while we're waiting for questions to come in, I have to say, I find the ear shape thing, that was really fascinating to me, because earbuds hurt my ears. They always have. I can't wear them for a long period of time. So it makes sense that I have a different ear shape than what is the standard earbud system. So that was really interesting to learn there. Kim White, she said her too. See, so then we need to go get special fitted and molds. I did find a pair though of wireless ones that I really like that work and recharge. So okay, Pat Stevens would like to know more about the cost differentiation.
Yeah, absolutely. So Pat said, share more about cost differentiation. And then also Lori had a question, why would a Costco hearing aid cost? And then I went to an office overseen by the House Ear Institute or Dallas Ear Institute, and they wanted $4,000 for the same type. So that's a great question. So hearing devices, you have to look at what's included. So whenever you look at hearing devices, do they offer loaners for you? Because there's yearly maintenance. And I know for sure Costco and Sam's, they do not recommend yearly maintenance. What happens is over time, debris, oil, sweat, perspiration will lower the performance of your hearing devices, and then it won't work as well. So yearly maintenance, anybody that you go to, Costco, Sam's, Dallas Ear, Total Hearing Care, or Family Audiology, or wherever, we can all vacuum out microphones and different parts, but only the manufacturer can actually break into the hearing aid and see if any of those parts and pieces are not running up to specs. So what happens is you're wearing the hearing aids 8 to 10 hours a day. So slowly those mechanics, just like your car, if you were to drive your car 10 hours a day, that is going to lower the performance. So whenever we send the hearing aids off for yearly maintenance, it does take about 7 to 10 business days to get it back. So what do you do between them, and you're supposed to do yearly maintenance every year. Well, we give you loaners, and unfortunately, Costco and Sam's, they are able to do a lower cost, which we have hearing aids that are comparable to their devices as well, and patients do wear those and they do well. And we have loaners, that's plus, because we're able to give them loaners. That's why your hearing aids are going to last longer and for a longer period of time, because you're going to be doing yearly maintenance. Whenever we get it back, like this is one of them that we got back today, and you can see they actually replaced the devices, the instruments. Sometimes they do that, sometimes they replace the amp, sometimes they replace the computer chip, sometimes they replace the wiring or the receiver or the microphone. They'll list what they did. So you get it back, and that hearing aid is performing like the first day that you got it. And so you do that once a year. That's why our hearing devices, they tend to last our patients about 3 years longer than the average hearing device, because we're doing all of that maintenance. So that's something that's different. You might look at the cost now, and it might be cheap now compared, and I don't know about Dallas Ear Institute. I don't know what they do. I know what we do in a couple of other practices, and I know about Costco and Sam's. So I don't know about Dallas Ear. I'd have to look into that, and I could get back to you on that, Lori. Judy Kidd had a question. Do you have a picture showing how connectivity works? So absolutely, I do have a picture, and I can kind of describe it to you as well. And we can always email you a picture. Try to. So whenever you look at the connectivity, depending what kind of phone you have or what kind of television that you have, then we will connect. It's all wireless, so there's no wires. And it's all something that we do in the settings of your phone or your TV box and your hearing aids. So it's all programmed, it's all wireless. Whenever you sit down in front of the TV, you just have to turn it on, and you go to your TV program. You either have a remote control that you do that, a separate remote control, or an app on your phone. We show you how to do that, and you can start streaming to your television. With your cell phone, if somebody calls you, it's automatic. It'll go straight to your hearing aid, so you don't have to do anything. We set that up. Does that answer your question, Judy?
I'm trying to unmute you, Judy, but it's not working. If it does not, yes. There you are.
I don't know if you can hear me or not.
Yes, yes, we can now.
Okay. Is it a separate device that's sitting on a table?
That's a good question. So to connect your hearing aids to the television, most often it is a separate device. It's a little block that's about 3 inches by 4 inches, and it connects into your television. Now with your phone, there's as long as you have an iPhone or an Android that's connectable, you won't need an extra device for that.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's see the next question. Oh, Robert, my hearing aids make my ears itch. Is this normal? Yes, that can happen, especially if it's new tips on the hearing aids, or I've had some patients that have had allergies, so I'd recommend you coming in and I can take a look at it, because if it's, depending on which type of hearing aid you're wearing, it might be one that we need to be coated in hypoallergenic material. It might already have that on there. If it's a mold, usually it's special order and you have to order that special. If it's a tip, sometimes if it's a new tip or a new part, it can kind of itch. There is some Miracell, which we actually have here. It's called Pro Ear Miracell. You can kind of see that there. And this is for, it's got an ear on it, and it says for itching ears. So we've got that at the office, and I've had patients be real, careful with it. You don't want to douse your hearing aid in it, but sometimes you can get like a little cotton or a piece of toilet paper and just rub it around the entrance of your ear canal. If you're very careful, some people will get a little Q-tip and kind of very lightly put some around the dome part or on the mold part. You just have to make sure it doesn't get in the hearing aid, because guess what? That's oil that's getting in the hearing aid, and that's not good. So that has really been known to help, but I encourage you to reach out to our office and see if there's something that we can maybe try and help you with. Toby said, are you in Rockwall? Unfortunately, no. At this time, we are not in Rockwall, but the closest office to Rockwall will be our Abrams and Mockingbird office. Yes. Okay. So Lori said, what's nice, Costco will do a monthly cleaning, which they hadn't before. So if you come into Total Hearing Care, as long as you're under warranty, we will do that as well. And that it does not cost you anything. So we do the monthly cleaning. In fact, it actually says it on our paperwork. We have something with tips for success, and you can come in as often as you want. And we do have a lot of patients walk in. We probably have about 75, sometimes 100 patients walk into all of our offices each day. So that's quite a bit. That goes to show you that hearing aids are not just one and done. You do have to keep them clean, and it's more maintenance than your glasses, but it's well worth the investment.
Now, real quick, you're also offering car service now for that at your offices, correct? So if someone doesn't want to come physically into the office, they can call, let someone know they're there, and they'll come collect those hearing aids, clean them, and bring them back out, correct?
And correct, yeah, we are doing car service. And before everything happened, Zoe, remember we were doing it at Celebration once a month. So if you come to the spot, we were doing that once a month, and it was complimentary cleaning for anybody that went into the spot at Celebration. We also go to facilities. So if you live at a certain facility, of course now, they're not letting people in right now, but we were going out monthly there, and that was all complimentary too. So, yep. So Judy Kidd asks, what is the cost of yearly maintenance? Well, it all depends. It depends on what manufacturer of hearing aid you have. It depends if you're in warranty or out of warranty. If you're in warranty and you bought the hearing aids from us, there's no cost for that. If you're in warranty and you didn't buy the hearing aids from us, usually it's like $50, I think, for us to do it. But that's something that we can check and let you know more specifics once we know your brand and manufacturer of hearing aid. Those are great questions. These are awesome. Let's see. I have that with my earphones connected to my cell phone, and have called it my Bionic Ears because only I hear the phone ring. Yes, it is. So for instance, one time I was wearing the hearing aids that connect to your cell phone, and I was in the middle of a presentation, and I was wearing the hearing aids because I like to listen to what y'all listen to. So, I can experience what y'all are experiencing. And right in the middle of the presentation, my phone starts ringing, but it was ringing in my hearing aids. And so I had this look of surprise, and I had to answer the phone. And their voice was in my hearing aids, but nobody else could hear it on the Zoom call. And that's because I had it Bluetooth wirelessly to my hearing aids. JP, go ahead.
I was just going to say real quick, Barbara sent me a question, so I wanted to make sure we got it addressed. She said, what's the average length of time hearing aids last? And are there any recommendations as far as when to replace them?
Yes, so hearing devices can last. I mean, I've seen patients that they have lasted 10 years for them. The average patient usually gets new hearing aids about every 5 to 7 years.
Okay.
Average, but that's not everybody. I mean, my grandma got new hearing aids whenever they were like 9 or 11 years old. I can't remember, but yeah. And sometimes some crazy new technology happens, and then the patients are like, "Whoa, this is so much better than my old ones." So, but if you think about it, you know, let's say that you drove a car. I'm going to calculate this out. You drive a car, you know, 10 hours a day and 60 miles per hour. So how many miles a day are you getting there? Can anybody tell me?
A lot. They're all muted, so if they want to put the answer in the
Okay.
chat, they can, but.
Yeah, you can put the answer in the chat. So it's about 600 miles per day. And then if you're driving that 30 days a month, 18,000, that's 18,000 miles a month. So you're putting over 200,000 miles on your car each month. And so that is, or I'm sorry, 200,000 miles each year. So that's a lot of miles that your hearing aids are actually experiencing. So if you think about it, you're going to have yearly maintenance because they're not going to work like the first day that you got them. And then, you know, technology changes by leaps and bounds all the time. So patients are hearing better and better each year. JP asked, is a cochlear implant good? Did I answer Barbara's questions?
Yes.
Okay, good. A cochlear implant, it all depends. So there's some patients that do great with cochlear implants, and there's some patients that did not fare too well, and the surgery was not very successful, and they didn't hear very well with the cochlear implant. It all depends. One of the biggest positives is if you have worn hearing aids for a long time and then you are a cochlear implant candidate, you actually are more successful than someone that did not wear hearing aids for a long time and had hearing loss, but never did anything about it, and then just went in and had a cochlear implant. So that's something to think about. Roy, Pat, how long are warranties usually? That's a good question. I'll get to you next, Roy. I just read ahead of myself. So how long are warranties? Usually the manufacturer will include a 2 or 3 year warranty for repair, loss, and damage. You have to ask about extensions because most places do not allow extensions, and you have to ask how long you can extend that product for repair and for loss and damage, because sometimes they separate that out. Sometimes they won't do loss and damage after 2 years or 3 years. Sometimes they won't do repair, but they will do loss and damage. It just depends. We do allow extensions on both. So the maximum with any manufacturer, any of the big 6 manufacturers, they're 5 years for repair and loss and damage total. Let's see. Now we're on to Roy. How do you clean wax from your ears? I love this question. This is a big question. So lots of patients are like, oh, Dr. Gainey, I didn't have time last night to clean my ears, and I forgot that you were going to look in them. And I'm like, no, it's okay. Wax is a normal thing. I'm an audiologist. I love wax. Not an abundance of it because it keeps you from hearing. Although it is nice to remove wax from patients' ears who thought they were going to have hearing aids, and then guess what? They didn't, because all they had was wax. I love that. But to clean your ears, you don't want to use Q-tips because that can actually shove the wax down further. You really want to just, depending if you have a history of a hole in your eardrum, don't do this. But sometimes whenever you shower, you can let that water flush out any wax or debris in there. Personally, I don't like water in my ears. So that is not something I like to do. So what sometimes I will do is I will get a rag and I'll kind of make it on the corner of it, make it really tight, and I will use that to go around. And you don't want to go too deep, because sometimes that can push wax further down in your ear canal. If you ever feel like, oh my gosh, I think I might have wax, I think it might need to be removed, it does not cost anything to come in over the counter, which of course we're doing curbside, so we can still look in your ear. If you step out of your car, we wear face masks and gloves. But if you feel like you have wax, we can look in your ears. One of our front office staff are trained to do that, and that doesn't cost anything.
Well,
That would be something good.
What about those? I've been seeing advertisements for those ear cleaners that look kind of like it almost looks like it's like a spiral, and you kind of twist it in and twist it out. Do they work? I admit I am a huge Q-tip fan and lover, so I know.
Don't tell me that. Yep. So those devices are not recommended. Actually, since those devices have come out, there's been an increase of perforated eardrums because you can go too deep, and you won't feel that you're going too deep until it's too late.
Okay.
And so that's what's scary. I've also seen, I don't know if you've seen this or any of y'all, but the suction thing advertised on TV, and that suction is not powerful enough, nor do you want it to be powerful enough, because your eardrum is actually made of 3 layers of skin. Isn't that crazy? So if you suction that out, you are in trouble. And the reason why it has to be so thin, it's like a drum that you bang on. It's very tight, and so it does not take much which is scary, which I've seen before. Let's see. The next question is Brenda, and she says, discuss a Cochlear Baja. Man, I love this. So what is a Cochlear Baja? First of all, what is a Baja? A Baja is a bone-anchored hearing aid. And so what happens is they do surgery, and there's like a little metal nub, and it sticks out right about here, and it sticks out maybe probably like a centimeter, and then it's a surgery. You have to have a surgery, and they put the nub in your cochlea, okay, in your bone area there. And so then they have to let the nub heal, and you have to clean the nub, because what will happen is skin will grow over it, because that's what skin does. And so you have like a little toothbrush, and so you have to make sure and keep it clean and keep the skin down. So then once the surgery is healed, after a couple months, you go into the audiologist, and there's like a little black device. It's about the size of a quarter maybe. Yeah. And so then the audiologist pops that on, and it snaps. Like, you have to hold their head and snap it on. And it snaps on, and then that's how they hear. It's like a bone-anchored hearing device. A lot of patients that have that, they're either going to have single-sided deafness, so that means one ear is okay, the other ear is not okay, is completely gone or something like that. It's also going to be patients that have a history of middle ear problems. That will be something that they are a candidate for. Sensory neural hearing loss, which is 95% of hearing loss in the world, is not going to be a candidate for that. Good question. Brenda, do you know somebody that wears a Cochlear Baja? Or
let's see if I can find. We unmute you. There you go, Brenda. If you want to talk, you are unmuted.
Yes, our one.
Oh,
and you didn't discuss it when you
Awesome.
talked about cochlear implants instead of a cochlear device. And mine is not black.
Yes.
And it toggles on. It doesn't. But you're right
Pop
about everything.
on.
So
Okay. Yeah.
and it has different colors, and it is blue.
Yes.
Too.
Okay, that is so neat. How long have you had it?
I've worn 2, almost 10 years.
Wow.
Okay. That's cool. I love that.
You
I
just
love-
didn't mention it, so I wanted you to discuss it because it is a hearing option.
Yes.
There has to, of course,
It
the
is.
audiologist has to approve it, you know.
Yep. And I'm going to add that. I'm going to add that.
It's a cochlear device, not a cochlear implant.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yep.
Very cool.
My
Well,
God.
thanks for sharing that, Brenda, and having her talk about it. The cochlear devices have always been quite fascinating to me, and a friend of mine
Yeah.
was deaf in high school. He eventually got one, of course, not while I was in high school, but he actually got one for his son too. And look, I have to admit, those
Wow.
baby videos where the babies get and they
Oh, yeah.
smile and hear for the first time, they get me every time. I'm wiping the tears. So
Yeah.
Can I ask
I
you another
do.
question? You said about hearing aids
Absolutely.
having to go into the shop for cleaning. I've never done that with my Baja. Do you send them in for cleaning?
So you have the Cochlear brand.
Mm.
I would have to see where you got it from. I know that they come with a warranty on them. I don't know how long, but I assume that yes, they can be sent in for maintenance, but I would have to get a serial number for you or from you, and then I would have to call Cochlear and double check with them.
Well, I can call them.
But do you? Yeah, or I can do call the serial number or whatever. But I mean, it's electronic device. It might not be a bad idea.
Okay. Okay.
yeah,
Yeah.
dust is everywhere, and it gets in the strangest of places. So
And another thing you didn't mention, you do take it off at night. You don't sleep in it, and you don't get water in it, things like that. You don't swim in it.
Okay, so yep, you do have to take it off at night. You don't get, that's exactly right. You don't get water in it.
all right. Well, Brenda, thanks for sharing that information with us. And Dr. Gainey, I'm going to unmute everyone. Hang on, unmute all. There we go. Let's give her a round of applause here. She did a fantastic job. I always find her talk so fascinating, and the questions are phenomenal. We always get such great questions.
We get great questions.
Fantastic
I love it. And Baja, oh my God. Y'all make my heart beat. Y'all, this is why I became an audiologist. Thank you. I'm serious.
That's right. So, for anyone would like more information about Total Hearing Care, you can visit their website, totalhearingcare.com. Like Paige mentioned, they do have 4 locations in the Dallas area. When the spot is open, they do come to our offices and offer free hearing screenings and the cleanings and dome changes for your hearing aids if you need them. And keep an eye out. You can find their ad in our magazine. You can find their information on our website. I know they would be happy to help you with any questions or can do a screening on you if need be, or look and see if the hearing aids you're currently using are correct for your type of hearing loss. I know that's really important. So thank you once again, Paige. Yay. Always a great presentation. Thank